What's up, guys? So today I wanted to talk about health tanking in Warframe. This is like my favorite way to tank and survive damage in Warframe. I know shield getting exists. Maybe we'll make a separate video for that. And invulnerability exists. Maybe we'll touch up on that because I feel like it's under the same similar boat. But I think it's important because once you enter Steel Path, you actually have to think, how will you survive taking damage? Some frames have built-in tankiness, and we'll discuss that, and some frames don't, which I feel like that's when you go shield gating, even though people go shield gating on any person with any frame with a shield. But I think certain frames should stick to shield gating, and if you can health tank, you should, unless you're doing like level 10,000 runs. That's the thing. So what is health tanking? Pretty self-explanatory. It's tanking with your health. Let's summon a quick Steel Path heavy gunners. We have no mods on right now. And you see 370. And we're dead. So you saw we didn't last that long. We took like 4 shots and we got blown up, right? That was with no mods. If we had some mods, it would be a little bit better, but what mods, how we mod it, and so on, right? So let's go into the arsenal real fast. And on the left here, you'll see some stats. The top are like your base stats and the bottom ones are your ability related. So the ones we care about are health, shield, and armor. Those are your survivability stats. Shield, we don't care about so much, but in case you don't know, shield have built-in damage reduction at 50%, and armor only gives damage reduction to your health. Okay, very important because you might not know that, but it does have a cap before it starts giving you less damage reduction back. Once you reach 2,800 armor, that is a 90% damage reduction. After that, you don't get that much. There are other ways to get damage reduction with abilities or mods, such as adaptation. So adaptation, whenever you take damage, you get 9% damage resistance from that source. If a heavy gunner shoots you and it does slash damage, you will receive 9% damage reduction from slash, stacking up. So they hit you 10 times, you'll be 90% tankier to slash damage, for example, right? I don't have this maxed out. I like to keep it at 9. You could level this up to, I think, 10. Yeah, to 10 if you like. You take 1 less shot to hit max, but that is one way to do it. Other frames, for example, like Citrine, your preserving shell gives you and your allies damage reduction. Ember has damage reduction. Inaros, I believe, probably. Necros and Augment gets damage reduction, so on, so on. Usually like those tanky frames have a way to get damage reduction. Mirage, Mesa, Neza, Gara, Ember, yeah, so on, right? They have abilities that give them an extra 90%, extra 75, extra 60, and so on, right? So going back to Eleanor, how do we hit the damage reduction we want? So we could build up armor. So if we throw in a steel fiber, we go from having 135 armor to 270 armor. Our damage reduction went from 31 to 47. That is good. Is that all we can get from Nyx, for example? You could get more. You could search up armor and a bunch of mods come out. For example, health conversion gives you 450 armor and it stacks 3 times based on health orbs. So you pick up a health orb, you get 450 armor and it stacks 3 times. If you have a way to get health orbs, for example, synth deconstruct on your Kubro or companions, this becomes really good. It could turn pretty much any warframe into a tanky frame. Another good thing is Arcane Guardian. Whenever you receive damage, you got a 15% chance to get a bonus 900 armor. So for example, if we have Arcane Guardian and health conversion, that is 900 plus, I believe, 1350. So we're looking at 2250 from just Arcane and 1 mod, plus your base. Still fire boost that a little bit, but because of these two giving you so much, this feels not as worth to put on. But if you want to, you could put this on. There are other ways. For example, aerodynamic. When you're in the air, you receive 24% damage reduction in the air. This is nice, but not that many frames want to be moving around and stuck in the air. So I would consider this if you're like trying your best to survive and you can't. If you don't need to aim, for example, you have like a rocket launcher, just fly, jump around, bullet jump. This works really well. But health conversion Guardian are really good because they give you so much. But you see how base armor on Nyx is 135? It's really low. If we swapped to a frame, if we swapped,
going to get a bit bloody.
If we swap to a frame who has a lot more base armor, for example, Corvex 1550, at default, you're at 83% damage reduction. We throw on a steel fiber, we're looking at 24. Boom, we're right there, almost at 90% damage reduction, right? So for example, Corvex would love to go health tank. Nyx probably wants to go shield tanking, shield gating, for example, right? But if you do want to health tank on Nyx, you can. Also, another thing important in health tanking is your health, obviously. So you see how Corvex has 700, you throw on a vitality, you now have 1400 armor. So if an enemy did 100 damage to you, instead of taking 7 shots to kill, it now will take them 10 times more, right? So instead of 7, it might take them 70 shots. So for example, if an enemy does 100 damage to you, going up to 90% damage reduction, instead of taking 100, you'll take 10, right? So if you have 700 HP, instead of taking 10 shots to die, it'll take you 70 shots to die, right? And if we add in vitality, which increases our health pool, we now double their HP. So in taking 70 shots to die, you'll take 140 shots to die now, right? Because of the damage reduction, making them do less damage, and you having more HP, essentially giving you more HP, right? And now if we add in, for example, adaptation, give us another 90, we now have 99% damage reduction, right? So if they did 100, we'll now take 1 damage, right? Just keep in mind, for example, Corvex would love health tanking. You also need a way to regen your HP. You can't just stand there and just take free damage.
Hey, it's me again. If you guys are enjoying the video or have stuck by this far, consider leaving a subscribe. It means a lot to me. Also, if you guys want to chat about the build or Warframe or anything at all, check me out on Twitch. I'm live pretty much every day, or at least 3 times a week. But yeah, sorry for the interruption. Get back to the video. Thank you.
So for example, we take some lancers. We just go stand in front of them. We're living. Somehow we're living. Oh. How are we living? Anyway, so we were living, we survived a decent bit. I don't know how, we were healing somehow. But if we add in some mods, we had a steel fiber and a vitality. And let's add in a arcane guardian. And let's jump right back in, right? Let's summon the exact same amount of lancers. And to stand right here, right? Boom. So you saw adding more HP and then more armor made us a little more tankier. Again, this sounds self-explanatory, but I know some people are struggling with this in Steel Path. There is an extra layer we can do, for example, right? For example, if we throw on Rage, there is another mod that's the same thing, but we'll just use Rage for now. And we do Quick Thinking. So now when we take damage, Rage will give us energy. And then if we happen to take lethal damage, our energy bar works as a second HP bar. And because our energy bar counts as a second HP bar, we'll add in Prime Flow just to give us a nice fat energy bar. And because we're having a lot of armor, we throw in Battery. We're looking at a lot of energy, right? So let's do the same thing. Let's get the Kubro out of here because I think it's healing us somehow. Spawn the guys and just enjoy the show. Boom. So you saw we ran out of HP for a while and we're taking energy damage. If you have a way to regen HP, again, this fixes the issue. You can't just die. So on Oberon, for example, who has a healing ability, I just don't die unless I'm going against like really high levels and do insane damage. But for the most situations, this build should be more than enough. Honestly, you can just remove that overkill. But again, you're using like 5 mods and arcane slots to survive, so it's a little bit much.